So you started like in your teenage and pretty much, decades of trying different things. So you've been into different places. You started from one place and then you went on Thailand, and now like how did you end up being in Singapore? Tell us a little bit about that, how the change in location helped you in, scaling your businesses overall.
One of the advantages, as I mentioned about Thailand, was that...
And you've been in Dubai too.
And I have lots of business interests in Dubai. So one of the advantages of Thailand, as I've mentioned, was it was cheap, it was quite easy, but there was also very much what I call a foreigner glass ceiling. You could do all right, but you're never going to get above that. And well, certainly I didn't have the talent, and haven't seen many people do that. I was ambitious, I was driven, and started to put together more intelligent business opportunities. But I realized that I needed to be surrounded by other people like me. I needed to be surrounded by people that were challenging me. And I needed to be surrounded with where people were willing to invest. And Singapore, and I loved Asia. There's so much going on here. There's so much energy. So I didn't want to leave Asia. And Singapore was really a natural next step. Also, we'd had a kid at that point, another one. And so Singapore was a little bit more mature, probably a little bit safer than jumping on the back of motorbikes without helmets and the things that we used to do. And so, moved to Singapore with a business. It was kind of around the days of the Groupon craze. And you may remember there's a lot of clones of those going. And what I had built, an employee fitness company. We basically went to all of those little niche fitness places, got a free sample, packaged it together and gave it to companies or sold it to companies to give to their staff so they could go and try out a whole bunch of different things. And that was going quite well. We were doing the very Silicon Valley approach of just raise money, scale as fast as you can, figure out the economics of it later. And so kind of went from a 1 million valuation to a 10 million valuation, expanded to 13 countries, I think 24 cities or something. And then the economy collapsed. So basically Facebook launched and dropped like a cliff. Groupon went public and fell off a cliff. And suddenly nobody was putting money into those businesses. And all the advice I'd been getting up to that was, don't worry about revenue, don't worry about, just scale. There'll always be people willing to back you. It turns out there weren't. So I learned another hard lesson with that one. But by then I was in Singapore and I'd started to build up my network here. And one of the biggest decisions people make without thinking about is where they live. And I think it's the biggest force multiplier to what goes on. Most people still to this day die within 10 miles of where they were born. And yet it's insane the amount of opportunities around the world, but you need to be where it's happening. Dubai is an amazing example. And what's interesting is most people come from the West to Singapore and they go, there's so much going on here. There's just the energy, the drive, everyone's entrepreneurial. And then you go to Dubai and it makes this place look slow. And so I think putting yourself around the right people is just such a fundamental hack to success.